Hi, and happy Wednesday! We're going to talk about what we read on Monday. We read the kite contest when we learned how to ask and answer some questions during the book, before the book, just by looking at it, and even after the book, maybe we had some questions at the end. So this one we determined was a fiction book. It was realistic fiction. It could happen in real life. And today we're going to read this book. And by looking at the cover, I see a man here. It's not real photographs though, so I'm not sure if it's going to be a fiction story or a nonfiction story. So I'm gonna need to read the book and start to see if it's true facts about this man or if it's a made-up story about him. So I can't really tell by looking at the cover just yet. So let's get started. It's called Sir Hans Sloane by Davis Lehan, illustrated by Cheryl Knoll. And let's see what we can figure out about this. So looking at the cover, I can already ask a question. I could say, where is he or what is he doing? I can't really tell. It looks like he's looking at some plants. So maybe he has something to do with plants or he's interested in plants. Let's see. And this story has headings, which if I remember, a nonfiction story, a true story, sometimes they have headings to help us organize information. So maybe it is a nonfiction. The early years. Sir Hans Sloane was a curious person. He liked to collect many things. He collected plants, animals, coins, and other souvenirs. He also collected books, insects, paintings, and rocks. He became a famous doctor, scientist, and collector. His collections grew so large that they were used to start 2 museums. So from this page, I can determine my question. It's talking about a real person who was named Sir Hans Sloane and what he's famous for. So it sounds like he is a collector. And I can ask myself, because that was a lot of information on one page, so I could say, what did he collect? And if I forgot, I'm going to look back in the text. Let's see, he collected plants, animals, coins, and other souvenirs. So souvenirs are something kind of cool that you collect, maybe from a place or a different country or somewhere you visit. It says he also collected books, insects, paintings, and rocks. So he really likes to collect things. I used to collect coins as well, some quarters with the different states on them. So I'm kind of relating to Sir Hans Sloane. I used to collect things too. Let's see what else he did. It also said he had collections that were so large they were used to start 2 museums. So we're going to find more out about that. Sloane was born in Ireland in 1660. So a question, I might not know what Ireland is. So maybe since it's not showing me a map, I could look that up on the internet or maybe in a different book, or I could look at a map and see where Ireland is. As a child, he was amazed by nature. He spent hours outside. He loved to study plants, and he wanted to know how plants could help sick people get better. He noticed that some people used special plants when they were sick. He wondered what other plants might help sick people become well. So now I see why he was looking at plants on the front cover. He was interested in them and how plants can help people when they're sick. So look at it, looks like here he's studying the different kinds of plants and trying to find out different ways to help people. In 1679, Sloane moved to London. He was still interested in science and plants. He studied chemistry and botany to learn more. So here's a word I might not know, botany. Let's see, maybe it has to do with plants, but that's something we could always look up. He also became friends with 2 famous scientists. He wanted to learn as much as he could. In 1683, he went to France to study medicine as well as botany. He continued to learn as much as he could about science. He also continued to meet many famous scientists. So on this page, it's talking about him wanting to learn from other people and go to school and study botany. Sloane was interested in many different subjects. He liked to study chemistry to learn about everything that we see, taste, touch, or feel. He also studied anatomy to learn about the parts of the body. So that's a different word, anatomy. And it tells me, I could say, what is anatomy? I can reread the sentence. He also studied anatomy to learn about the parts of the body. So anatomy means you study about the body. Finally, he became a doctor. He worked as a botanist, a doctor, and a scientist, and he continued to learn new things. So we could ask, how does Sir Hans Sloane learn new things? We could say he learns from other famous scientists. He goes to school. He reads a lot. So he really, really enjoys learning new things especially about science and plants. A trip to Jamaica. So here's another heading. So it looks like he's going to Jamaica now. That's a new place. In 1687, Sloane sailed to Jamaica to work as a doctor. The voyage lasted about 3 months. Sloane took many notes about what he saw during his trip. He wrote about the strange lights he saw in the water. He also wrote about the habits of seabirds that flew all around the ship. So he's studying animals like birds. And he's taking a lot of notes about what he's learning while he's going to Jamaica. Sloane spent more than a year in Jamaica. He studied the plants that grew on the island. He took more notes on what he saw. So if I said, what is Jamaica? Now it tells me it's an island, and he's studying plants here. Here's that picture that was on the cover. So we could say the setting right now is in Jamaica. In his notes, he explained how people used the plants. He removed some plants from the ground for his collection. He drew exact pictures of other plants in his notebook. So some of the plants he got to take home to learn more about, and other ones he drew pictures of, so he could remember exactly what they looked like and learn more about them. Sloane studied the animals that lived in Jamaica too. He wrote about how they lived and what they ate, and even how they growled. His notes filled many books. Sloane studied other things too. He studied the weather, earthquakes, and rocks. Wow, so if I asked, what does Sloane study? I would have to definitely go back in the text, and I'd have to find all those things because he really liked to learn earthquakes, rocks, about the body, the weather, animals, lots and lots of things. That's why it's awesome to go back to the text and to find out those answers. Sloane also studied the way people lived in Jamaica. He made notes about these customs in his notebook. People in Jamaica liked a drink made from the cocoa plant. Sloane tried the drink, and at first he didn't like it. But when he added milk, he thought it tasted better. By mixing the cocoa and the milk, he created chocolate. Ooh, that's something we all know. So now we know he's also kind of like an inventor. He created chocolate. So that's a pretty cool fact. He took his recipe for chocolate back home with him. Later, chocolate with his name on it was sold in England. So here's a real photograph of the chocolate that had his name on it, Sir Hans Sloane. Milk chocolate. So he figured out if you add cocoa and milk together, he made milk chocolate. Here's another heading, returning to England. So remember, he went to Jamaica for about a year, and now he's going back to England, returning there. Sloane returned to England in 1688. He took many artifacts from Jamaica with him. He brought back books with plants pressed inside them. This kept them safe so he could study them at home. He also brought many animals back with him. So I could ask, how did he keep the plants safe? Because that's a long way to go from Jamaica to England. And then I could say, let's see, he brought back books with plants pressed inside them. So he would put the plant here and he would press them in here so they didn't move or break or crumble, because when plants dry out, they're a little crumbly. In 1696, Sloane's notes from Jamaica were published. His book was very popular. Sloane became famous. Many important people asked him to become their doctor, including the King and Queen of England. So he is a famous man, Sir Hans Sloane, even though he was born a long time ago, back in the 1600s. We're in the 2000s now. He's still famous, and we still learn about him today. So that means he must have done some pretty incredible things, like invented chocolate. Sloane began to collect plants and artifacts and other people had discovered. His collection began to grow, and many people visited his home to see it. The halls and rooms of his house were filled with plants, animals, rocks, and coins. So here you can see his house and all of his collections. He must have been really proud, and people really liked to come see them. Sloane bought the house next door so that he would have more room for his collection. He hired someone to guard the collection and keep it safe. So I could say, why did he need to buy another house? That seems really crazy. And we could determine that he said he needed more room. He had so many things that he collected. He needed to buy another house next door. That is just so crazy. He also had to hire a guard to keep it safe. What is a guard? Let's see if I can figure that out. A guard to keep it safe. So sometimes at museums or in buildings that have important, valuable things, they have guards to make sure that they stay safe, that no one takes them, that they don't break. So he even hired a guard to keep his collection safe. That's how much he cared about it, and he didn't want anything to happen to it. Many people tried to sell him their collections. In 1726, Benjamin Franklin traveled from America to England. He visited Sloane in London and sold him a purse. Sloane wanted everyone to enjoy all the objects he had collected, so he asked that the objects stay together in London after his death. Sloane died in 1753 at the age of 92. So even when he passed away, he asked that all of his objects stayed together in London. He didn't want them sold to different places. He wanted them all together just like he always had them. So I could ask, I wonder who got all those items? Or where did all those items go then if they stayed in London? 2 museums. Ooh, I just answered my question. A museum. So here's some pictures of museums. This is the British Museum and the Natural History Museum. So now I can even predict before even reading this text, I bet all his collections are in these 2 museums. The government of England brought Sloane's collection. When they saw how many things he had, they realized that they had to build 2 museums to hold all of them. So just like his houses, he had 2 houses. They had to build 2 museums to fit all of his stuff. That is a lot of things he collected. The British Museum holds the books Sloane collected. The Natural History Museum contains his plants and other artifacts. So the British Museum has all his books, and the Natural History Museum is all his artifacts and plants. Today, millions of people visit these 2 museums. They are 2 of the best-known museums in the world. Sloane would be very happy to know that his work is still being shared. So these museums are still around today in London and England, and you could go there maybe one day and see them. Otherwise, we could always look up these museums and find out more information if you were curious about what's all in these museums. And that is a book about Sir Hans Sloane. So after reading that, if you remember, it's kind of like a nonfiction text because it's true facts. But if it's about a person, like in our book Bin 8, do you remember what that word was called? It starts with a B. It's about a person's life, and they're usually a famous person that did something incredible or special in the world. It's called a biography. So this one is a biography about Sir Hans Sloane. We read other biographies about Helen Keller or Barack Obama or many other famous people that helped change the world. So this was a great book, and now I could ask a question at the end. I could say, who was the character? It wasn't really a character, but it was about a person's life, and his name was Sir Hans Sloane, so we know that. We found out that the book is a biography about a person's life. Can we retell the story? We could go through and we can talk about what happened first, next, then, and last. So we could say how he started his life interested in nature and plants, and how he became a famous doctor, a scientist, a collector, and then he went on to London to keep studying botany about plants. He took a trip to Jamaica for 1 year, and he really got to study and take things home to continue to study them. He invented chocolate. Then he returned to England. And last, he had to buy 2 houses to keep all of his stuff. And then when he died, the government in London bought 2 museums to keep all of his stuff. So how he is so important to us for making these museums that people still visit today to learn about all those different things that he was able to collect in his life.